they also have like differences in terms of like, hey, there's just tax benefits in the law and have been in the law for 20 years, right? And then some countries have massive subsidies, right? China has something like $200 billion of semiconductor subsidies a year. We're talking about $50 billion in the US over like 6, right? So the girth or difference in like the subsidy amounts is also huge, right? And so I think Trump has been talking about tariffing Taiwan recently. That's sort of like one of these things that's like, oh, okay, well, like, maybe he doesn't want to subsidize the US semiconductor industry. Obviously, tariffing Taiwan is going to cost a lot of things to go get much more expensive, but does it change the equation for TSMC building more fabs in the US? That's what he's sort of positing, right?
So can you we laid out the importance. By the way, it's incredible how much you know about so much.
We told you Dylan knows all this stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, you laid out why TSMC is really important. If we look out into the future, 10, 20 years out, US-China relationship seems like it can go to a dark place of Cold War, escalated Cold War, even hot war, or to a good place of anything from frenemies to cooperation to working together. So in this game theory, complicated game, what are the different trajectories? What should U.S. be doing? Like, what do you see as the different possible trajectories of U.S.-China relations as both leaders start to feel the AGI more and more and see the importance of chips and the importance of AI?
I mean, ultimately, the export controls are pointing towards a separate future economy. I think the U.S. has made it clear to Chinese leaders that we intend to control this technology at whatever cost to global economic integration.
So that
it's hard to unwind that. Like the card has been played.
To the same extent, they've also limited U.S. companies from entering China, right? So it is, it's been a long time coming. At some point, there was a convergence, right? But over at least the last decade, it's been branching further and further out, right? Like U.S. companies can't enter China, Chinese companies can't enter the U.S. The U.S. is saying, hey, China, you can't get access to our technologies in certain areas, and China's rebuttaling with the same thing around like, they've done some sort of specific materials in, gallium and things like that they've tried to limit the US on. There's a US drone company that's not allowed to buy batteries, and they have like military customers, and this drone company just tells the military customers like, hey, just get it from Amazon because I can't actually physically get them, right? Like there's all these things that are happening that point to further and further divergence. I have zero idea, and I would love if we could all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, but like I have zero idea how that could possibly happen.
Is the divergence good or bad for avoiding war? Is it possible that the divergence in terms of manufacture of chips, of training AI systems is actually good for avoiding military conflict?
It's an objective fact that the world has been the most peaceful it's ever been when there are global hegemons, right? Or regional hegemons, right? In historical context, right? The Mediterranean was the most peaceful ever when the Romans were there, right? China had very peaceful and warring times, and the peaceful times were when dynasties had a lockhold over not just themselves, but all their tributaries around them, right? And likewise, the most peaceful time in human history has been when the U.S. was the global hegemon, right? The last decades. Now we've sort of seen things start to slide, right? With Russia, Ukraine, with what's going on in the Middle East, and Taiwan risk. All these different things are starting to bubble up. Still, objectively, extremely peaceful. Now, what happens when it's not one global hegemon, but it's two? Obviously, and China will be competitive or even overtake the U.S. like it's possible, right? And so this change in global hegemony. I don't think it ever happens like super peacefully, right? When empires fall, right? Which is a possible trajectory for America. They don't fall gracefully, right? Like they don't just slide out of irrelevance. Usually there's a lot of shaking. And so, what the US is trying to do is maintain its top position. And what China is trying to do is become the top position, right? And obviously there's butting of heads here. In the most simple terms.
And that could take shape in all kinds of ways, including proxy wars.